humans who change their gender are no different than animals or plants who naturally alter their bodily composition for survival of their species. That is batshit crazy. Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our story here is dealing with a science class in the state of Massachusetts teaching radical gender ideologies as fact. Folks, this one is nuts. It's one that definitely get your blood going, and it just proves and shows that indoctrination is actively happening in the classroom. This one comes from the Daily Wire, and they start off here saying, New Boston Post, a conservative aggregate news source for all things New England, recently reported Needham High School in Needham, Massachusetts, is teaching students in its biology class that humans who change their gender, get this, humans who change their gender are no different than animals or plants who naturally alter their bodily composition for survival of their species. That is batshit crazy and just patently false. Basically, what they're saying is that there's plants and animals and species out there that will alter their bodily composition so they can reproduce and have babies and continue their species out there. And they're saying human beings can do that too. In other words, a male can alter its bodily composition and have a baby. Folks, that is not possible. And I know all of you are aware of that, but this is what they are teaching our children now in schools. And this is just one. Can you imagine where this is happening in other places in the United States? This should terrify all of you because now they're actively teaching falsehoods inside the classroom. This is not legit. This is unbelievable how they're getting away with this indoctrination. And there, frankly, folks, there needs to be a rise up. And I'm a teacher. This is nuts. And I teach in the STEM field. I'm a mathematics teacher. That would be like me teaching your son or daughter, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. 1 + 1 = 5. And it's not even to the extent of what's being taught here. This is nuts. This is next level nuts. According to the report, the Massachusetts high school biology class also requests students limited gender language during the section on genetics in order to create an inclusive classroom. But some critics are saying the lesson plan is indoctrination. Yeah, this goes further than indoctrination. He or she, whoever's teaching this, is just straight up lying to these kids. And what happens when they get into college? What happens when they go into their upper division classes and they believe all these things? They start writing papers on this stuff. This is crazy. New Boston Post reported last week that Needham High School is teaching in biology class that humans are socially conditioned to view sex and gender as binary. That it has nothing to do with biology. It's just merely made up by the social fabric and society out there. Wow. That class also requires students to refrain from language that removes gendered terms to talk about bodies, to make sure people with diverse asexualities, agenders, abodies, and aromantic orientations are included and respected. I don't even know what aromantic orientations are. I've never even heard of that before. It goes on here saying, according to the report's author, Tom Joyce, Needham High School educators broke down the difference between anatomical sex and gender identity even further. Here is how it is defined for anatomical sex. Sex, sometimes called biological sex, anatomical sex, and physical sex, is comprised of things like genitals, chromosomes, hormones, body hair, and more. But one thing it's not: gender. And here is how it's defined: gender identity. Your psychological sense of self, who you in your head know yourself to be based on how much you align or don't align with what you understand to be the options for gender. Now, there's only 2 options for gender, but that's not what they're teaching. They're implying here that you could be anything you want. Male, female. In 5 minutes, you can be a male. And the next 5 minutes after that, you could be a female. Heck, you might not even be either. And this isn't a science class. This isn't like English class or like some random elective course. This is a biology class. The lesson plan also includes non-human examples of gender variation, as reported by Joyce. These include clownfish, the common reed frog, and a umbrella plant all of which have the natural ability to change the reproductive system. That's exactly what I was implying, and that's what the class is doing, is they're saying that human beings can reproduce if they just change their sex or their bodily composition. Something New Boston Post noted is distinctly different from humans, there we go, who believe they can change their gender. The clownfish differs from a biologically male human identifying as a woman, because a male cannot give birth under any circumstances. Absolutely correct. But again, that's not what they're teaching here. This is scary. According to Parents Defending Education, the section on genetics also included a focus on topics like gender expression and attraction. In reaction to the story, Massachusetts Family Institute Communications Director Mary Ellen Seeger slammed the lesson plan, saying in an email to the New Boston Post that in schools across the Bay State, harmful transgender ideology has moved beyond being promoted in select student-sponsored clubs to now being actively taught across the curriculum. And that's exactly what I was just emphasizing, that it's not like this is just like an English class teaching about sex or a health class or just a random club or anything like this. This is in the STEM fields. And again, if it's happening in one classroom, can you imagine how many biology classes are teaching this very same thing? And without you even knowing, maybe telling your kids not to tell you? This is wild and scary. I never thought, at least in my lifetime, that gender ideologies or this progressive leftist narrative would seep into the STEM fields like this in education. I knew it had the possibility because, like I said, in mathematics, there was professors on the extreme far left side trying to push the fact that 2 + 2 = 5. Now, I know 2 + 2 = 4, and that's what all of you were taught as well, at least I hope. But they were basically pushing that, saying that if you teach 2 + 2 = 4, you're basically racist because there's students out there, people of color, that aren't able to get the right answer, and so thus you're racist. There's more to it, but it's all batshit crazy. It is all nutso. Massachusetts schools have been overtaken by special interest groups, groups intent on promulgating radical social theories, and the Needham School District is no exception. Quote, these facts are troublesome enough, but to think that transgenderism is now being taught as science takes the concern to a whole new level. I'm fully on board with what this person is saying. Biological sex is immutable. To teach students otherwise is a lie and not science. This is not education, it's indoctrination. 100% agree with the parents. 100% agree with what this person is saying. And again, I want to bring awareness to all of you here on the Bald Brad Show. My hope is that you can actually send this video to your friends and family and let them at least know what's going on in this article. Even if they're not a Republican, even if they're not a conservative, if they so happen to be middle ground, there has to be people that are Democrats that don't agree with this. We need to get this word out so that people could talk to their children and see what's being taught in the classroom. The parents need to fight back. You're hearing this from an educator yourself. I'm telling you that you need to rise up here. The teachers need to rise up. Those that know the correct way in which education should be ran and say, this is not okay. This is wrong. What you're doing is actual indoctrination and it needs to be exposed. And that's what we're doing here at the Bald Brad Show. Folks, with that being said, please make sure you like and subscribe to this video, share it with your friends and family all over social media, and I will see you next time here on the Bald Brad Show.